Hey, what's up, guys? We're just gonna do a quick kind of like members only type of video for the NBA two-game slate, which is today and tomorrow. Um, it doesn't. It's obviously different than the showdown slates, but I think if we discuss like how we think the game's gonna play out, who's gonna play well, hopefully it can translate to the next two showdowns for you guys as well. And if it doesn't, well, then just good luck, and I hope you win money doing whatever it is that you're doing.
Amen.
Never hesitate to click the thumbs up button. And we were just kind of talking about this one. Like the Bucks winning pretty easily last night was pretty predictable. Kind of like the Clippers finding a way to win game 3 was pretty predictable. How do you think the Clippers Suns game plays out tonight? I think it's going to be a close one. We've seen a bunch of close games in the series already. I think Chris Paul got to knock some rust off. Devin Booker probably a little bit more used to wearing that mask and looking like some sort of supervillain. Cameron Payne not being around is something to look for, but it sounds like he's probable.
Yeah, I actually, man, as much as I hate to say it, I do think the Suns win this one, and I expect a very close game. Also, won't be surprised if the Clippers, take this one either. I can see the series going 7.
I could see it going 7. I could see it going 5.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess 6 is plausible too. I can't picture the Clippers winning the next 3 and winning this in 6, but I could see the Suns taking a road game in game 6 as well. I think gun to head, I also picked the Suns to win this game, but it's close, right? And that's all that really matters from a DFS perspective.
yep.
So as far as like if the question is Chris Paul or Devin Booker, I'm team Chris Paul, easy on this one. He's a $1,400 less. They didn't have to like mess around with him. He played 39 minutes in his first game back. He didn't play great. He still rolled into 43 points. He's $500 less today. I think Chris Paul was a real good look in this spot.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it feels like Booker is priced with Paul for Paul to be out. Still a little bit too cheap. He's the definite priority.
Okay. Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges. I mean, these guys, they're aptly priced, which means they're both in play and not must. So if you think they play well, cool. If you don't think they play well, you don't need to roster them. It all becomes about the roster construction right here. And they are firmly in this very blah type of category. Jay Crowder probably has like a nice game coming one of these days, but play him, don't play him. They're not priorities. But if my last forward spot's 4,900, I don't mind rostering a Mikal Bridges.
Agreed.
And then Ayton would be the next guy that I would be looking at a little bit. He got a nice price drop down to where it's a little bit more appropriate. They just don't really have the bodies to stop him. He's a little too athletic for Zubac. So he's wildly in play for me.
I agree with you. I like him more at home, but he's still wildly in play because, as you mentioned, they don't have the bodies to stop him.
All right, so we'll flip over to the Clippers. So really for the Suns, it's Paul and Ayton. And then
Yes.
over on the Clippers, speaking of centers, I mentioned Zubac last time out. If he's starting, I think you just run with him. He started. He balled. He is going to probably be the most popular guy in the slate.
I think you just play him and move on with your life.
Yeah, man. Like going back to the second half of game 1, he got most of his DFS points, and the majority of these 18 minutes came in the second half. They played 33 and 34 minutes collectively the last 2 games. They won last game, and they really should have won the game before if, you know what I mean, Paul George hits free throws or they just block that inbounds play. So I assume he's earmarked by Lou to play good minutes again.
Agreed.
The next guy up, man, I just continue to be impressed with Reggie Jackson. This guy's playing to get paid. He's got a contract coming. Nobody's made more money for themselves the last few weeks than Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, it's difficult because I do feel like Jackson, Zubac, and Paul George are priorities.
It's hard for me to put Jackson as a priority only in the sense that like this could limit you from getting another stud if you wanted one. Like if you think Paul George is a priority and you think Trae Young or Giannis is a priority, you probably are going to struggle to get to Reggie Jackson. Like I'll probably fade Paul George here. Not that I dislike him. Maybe. I might fade Paul George right here.
Well, the thing is, you're going to have to pick at least one to fade between George, Giannis, and Trae Young.
Yep. You can't play them all. I'm going to give an answer at the end. I'm still contemplating Paul George, Giannis, and Trae Young and how I want to handle this one. I think we mentioned this last time out when we were doing the sports battle video that Paul George may not be great offensively, and he wasn't, but you expected good rebounding numbers. Figured he'd be assertive and aggressive. Lo and behold, he came out with 15 boards last night. So the boards are probably toned back down, but he could easily shoot better.
Or get a couple steals, etc.
Yeah, he has not shot the ball well this series at all. 10 to 26, 10 to 23, 9 to 26. Again, I think for the Clippers to win this game, he's got a big game coming, a game where he actually shoots the ball effectively. He's 4 of his last 19 from 3. That definitely can, rise today.
Yeah, I think that he's actually a priority for me, even over those two guys from the next game.
Okay. Out of nowhere, Terrence Mann plays 32 minutes last game. Don't trust it. Coach Lou, he's been moving around his role players. Now, he's very affordable at $4,100. And if he's starting again, I think he's a rock solid look. But don't be surprised if he starts and all of a sudden plays 18 minutes instead of 32.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, though, at that price point, you could do a lot worse.
Much worse. I'd much rather roster Reggie Jackson. But if you want to play Trae and Giannis or Paul George and somebody else, the price difference is huge.
For sure.
All right, so Morris is a game time decision. He's really cheap, but he's clearly not himself. He has not even hit value in the last 4 games at this price. He's banged up, so I don't think he's a great look.
I agree.
So Zubac, for me, you lock in Zubac right here, and then we'll come back to these other guys, but there's plenty of good plays on this slate. And if you're playing the showdown today, I think Zubac, Chris Paul, you mentioned Paul George, Terrence Mann, depending on their pricing. There's plenty of good plays on this one.
Yeah, a ton of good plays on this one.
So as far as Trae Young goes, there's obviously, this is a nice discussion to have. So he was nothing short of Michael Jordan levels of amazing in game 1. He was just god-awful last night. Terrible. A lot of that was a completely different way that they chose to defend him. There was a lot more intensity on the Milwaukee Bucks side. Is he going to ball or is he going to be bad? For me, honestly, I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. I don't expect either one of these extremes again.
I agree. I think he with 40-some DK points. And give me Paul George over him and at a little bit of a cheaper price.
Yeah, I'm with that. I liked Paul George more for this slate, and that was obviously a big decision. And this one worked out right this time. I think he'll be a lot better this time out. I think the issue here, though, is what everybody talked about to start the series was that Milwaukee was too big for Atlanta. And they beat Trae Young up last night, and that defensive blueprint worked. Now they're going to be back in Atlanta, and I expect a significantly better game. But the truth of the matter is it's a rough matchup for the Hawks for the discrepancy in size and everything like that. And, I won't be surprised at all if Milwaukee wins the next 3 or 3 the next 4 and just takes the series. It's a hard matchup for Atlanta.
Agreed. If Milwaukee were at home here, I'd feel stronger about that. But this game is competitive, but man, I just like the first game more for offense, especially from the Atlanta side. I don't know. I just feel better about Paul George than Trae Young, and like you said, he can't play them all.
Well, I said the same thing 2 times ago, and that one worked out well. So Paul George is on my good side, so that makes it a lot easier right here. As far as the Atlanta role players, so something you mentioned at the start of the NBA playoffs is traditionally, and again, it doesn't work every time, guys, but traditionally within the playoffs, role players tend to play better at home. So there is that. I think the other thing that makes this hard, though, is Atlanta reintroduced Cam Reddish last night, which just takes up significantly more of their wing minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They still don't have DeAndre Hunter, but yeah, now you add in Cam Reddish, you got Herter, Bogdanovic. I don't feel good about any single one of them.
Right. So somebody was asking me over a message the other day, is this a big bounce back spot for Herter? And I'm like, I don't think so, because as great as his games 6 and 7 were, this is a guy who had 5, 23, 17, and 13 surrounding that. They found a matchup in game 6 and 7 where they kept giving Kevin Herter on Seth Curry, and he just worked it. You don't have that in this series.
Truth.
And he's much bigger. I'd be much more likely to use like a Gallinari than I would be a Kevin Herter. Uh, I mean, there really isn't any role players from Atlanta I love. They're pricey now. Collins is 7.3. Maybe like Capella, who had a monster game one.
I agree.
The thing with Capella, though, those 19 rebounds, that's an outlier. Milwaukee did not hustle game one. I don't expect to see that from them again. They got outworked. Just flat out Atlanta wanted it more, and they took it.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. We're not going to see that again this series.
I don't think so. I mean, I saw somebody say this morning, Milwaukee, the Bucks' biggest enemy is the Bucks, and just sometimes not bringing their A game. I can't disagree with that.
For sure.
Holiday has been fantastic these first two games, but now he got the price bump up. And as great as he shot the last 2 days, going 8 of 16 from 3, let's not forget this is a guy who couldn't hit water falling out of a boat series before. So I don't think it's any lock for these monster offensive performances to continue. He's also more expensive now, so I just can't picture myself using him.
I agree. I don't feel that much differently about him. He has been good, but I do think most of his effort will be on stopping Trey.
Yeah. I think Bryn Forbes is a deep GPP sleeper. Middleton is aptly priced on the road. I probably don't end up there. You know, PJ Tucker's had a couple of nice DFS games lately. He's now 4K, so I think you could do worse, but I certainly don't think he's a great play. For me, on the road, knowing that he's probably going to have to play a full allotment of minutes here because I expect this game to be closer, I think it's tough not to play Giannis. Honestly, they struggle to stop him. They do not have the bodies to really slow him down.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that he's a priority even more so than Paul George, and I like Paul George a lot because on the road, I mean, he's just going to walk into DFS points. You're going to need him on your squad or on this slate, in my opinion, and you just play him.
Agreed. If you asked me to bet on 70 or 48, because those are his first two games, I'd bet on the 70 because I expect this one to be a competitive game. I figure you got Atlanta back at home. You know, I think, again, they're my team, so I think they're better, but the Bucks are the better team. And I think you're going to get a fight in this one. And I think if you give me 42 minutes of Giannis, I expect at least 60 points.
Agree.
So, I mean, that about does it. I guess if you're making a lineup, we got Giannis and Zubac right there. And then, well, here's a question for you. Chris Paul, Paul George, Trae Young. Like, can you even play Chris Paul and Paul George together?
Yeah, I think yes. This right here, and then yeah. And the thing is, like, then can you play Ayton still? Probably not.
No, God, no.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's tough sledding because there's 4 teams left, and you want the stars on a.
So this is what I might do then. I might go Paul Ayton and hit up that mid tier with Reggie Jackson a little bit more. I would like to get Paul George. I would like to get Trae Young. But I think we can get back to the basics on this one as well, which at the start of the playoffs is give me those good players like a mid tier star like a Chris Paul because it allows you to get better secondary players.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think like you could potentially, use like a Middleton over Giannis if you think it's a Middleton game.
Could be. I get that. I definitely get that. I think I'm more likely to use Chris Paul over the Paul Georges and Trae Youngs than I am Middleton over Giannis, but I think a lot of people might think that.
For sure. Man, I'm with you all around here. We see the slate very similarly.
So, and then when you get down to the small forward position here, kind of starts at like Jay Crowder. I have no strong feelings about small forward today. You know what I mean? Like Jay Crowder, Bridges, Reddish, Connington, Tucker, they're all there in play. I don't love any of them. You got to play somebody at the small forward position. I think Luke Kennard at 3K is a look. It's not a look I feel great about, but they played 2 straight good games, and he's played 20 minutes per.
True. And I mean, he's 3K.
right? This would allow you then to. So also noted, the Clippers keep playing around the rotation. Rondo only played 8 minutes the other day, and I'm pretty sure he's not playing the second half. So I think you run from the hills right there. Beverly's been playing good minutes. I guess he's a look. He's not a very good DFS player, but he's going to have to be out there because they clearly need his defense.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you're not excited he's going to play some minutes.
If Mann is starting, though, give me Terrence Mann over Patrick Beverly.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So if you were working with this build right here, like the forward position, you got nothing up here. That's where I'd probably go try to upgrade a Luke Kennard. Let's put in Mikal Bridges for a second and see what happens. I don't know. Playing around with the forward positions, they suck.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. The other flip side of like just playing like instead of Reggie Jackson and Ayton, Paul George, and like the because the mid tier and the scrubs are similar almost. Again, it's interesting because there's just so few guys you actually want to play on this slate, but the guys that you do want to play, you really want to play.
And the good players, other than Giannis, like all the good players are guards, really. So like you're stuck picking forwards you don't like, no matter which way you do it.
Yep.
That's honestly for me the best argument for Middleton over Giannis in a lot of ways is just give me the small forward position. Not that power forward is much better. Oh yeah, I didn't mention Bobby Portis either, who again has played pretty solid minutes the first 2 games. He's a look, nothing more than that.
Agreed.
All right, guys, that about does it. We just wanted to have a quick talk about it. Good luck today.
Thanks, guys.